I just fundamentally disagree with how they went about building their team. I said it at the time, it's not about Malik Nabers, because Nabers could be the best player in the draft. He could turn out to be a stud. That's great. If you don't have a quarterback to get him the ball, it negates what a wide receiver could do. If you don't have the guys up front protecting the quarterback to have the time to throw the ball down the field, it negates what a wide receiver could do. So fundamentally, I just disagree with the way that the Giants went about building their team this offseason. I know why they did it. I understand it. It's not a knock on Nabers, but I would prefer to build inside out. And I feel like the Giants, and we got a good look behind the scenes at it, got caught up in the star power and explosive playmakers. And Joe Shane referenced that. Playmakers. Yeah, they did get a playmaker, but without the quarterback, without a good offensive line, it just doesn't work to me.
Well, I think it's not easy for Giant fans, but I do think it's probably easy to, because of the playoff win a couple of years ago, to just gloss over how much in shambles this franchise has been for a long time. I mean, in a lot of ways, the shine from the Giants franchise was just stripped away, and the organization was decaying. I mean, the Giants were always, along with the Yankees, a fixture and symbol of success and stability outside of Billy Martin and George, you know what I mean? It was the guiding light in the New York sporting landscape here, and they lost their way. I mean, they were in the wilderness without a stick and without a match. It was ugly here. So I know maybe it's unconventional, but I've got no problem the way they're doing this, because if they didn't have a left tackle, which they do, he's one of the best in football.
Right.
If they didn't have multiple outstanding pass rushers, which they do, then I could sit here and say, all right, maybe they're neglecting two of the areas that you must, and obviously quarterback is paramount, but the other two areas, I get that.
Defensively, I'm fine, obviously. Not going to argue with Burns or what they've done.
Yeah, and Thibodeau and Dexter Lawrence. And
you need to see a little bit more from Thibodeau, I think, this year.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's a superstar, but he's certainly, on the lowest level, he's at least validated being drafted inside the top 10. The one thing that he does really well. So, listen.
And they're going to put him more in coverage this year, so we'll see. This will be a big year for Kayvon Thibodeau, especially with Burns.
Yes.
Should make things easier
It
for
should.
him.
It should free him up a little bit here. But, if I look at, just a grease board, and I'm like, okay, how do I go out and how do I give myself a chance to not only be good this year, but be good for multiple years? Who's protecting my quarterback? Who's getting after the opposing quarterback? What corner do I have to lock down the opponent's number one receiver? And what guy do I have that I could put on the outside and say, go win the matchup and get us 30, 40 yards, get us in the end zone, just beat your man one-on-one? And right now the Giants have at least two of those four, and I believe with Malik Nabers, who I said the day after they drafted him, this kid's going to be the best player of the draft. I loved him going in. I love him now. I hear you. It seems a little non-direct or not linear without the quarterback.
Yeah, well,
I get that, but and this is where you and I fundamentally disagree. I don't love Daniel Jones. They'll never win a Super Bowl with Daniel Jones. And next year, I don't think he'll be on the team. But I'd rather just push it forward one more year and be competitive than do something crazy and give up 5 first-round picks for a kid. I don't know if he could play.
Right, but the problem is that you don't know when you're going to be picking in that spot again. So now to get a quarterback, what are you going to do? Free agency? You're going to make a trade? Or you're going to trade even more to trade up from a position that you're deeper down in the draft? They had the opportunity there. And I'm not saying we don't know exactly what it would have cost to get Drake May, but that, to me, would have been the right way to do it. You're giving up multiple picks, and he didn't want to do that, and that's fine. Joe Shane wanted to be conservative. Seems everybody now values prospects, values picks, as opposed to going forward. Now, if they didn't believe in Drake May enough to do that, so be it. That's a different story, but they are kicking the can then down the road because they said, well, we can't get what we really want, what we really need, so let's just take an explosive playmaker, which kind of replaces Saquon Barkley. Not obviously person for person on the field or playmaker for playmaker, but Barkley was the star offensive player of this team. That was a bad offense, but he still was the face of the franchise. The owner said it. And then you have Malik Nabers, who's likely going to take that role, assuming he could actually produce for the Giants. But it's just not the right way to build the team. Whereas the Chargers, the pick ahead of the Giants, took Joe Alt. I know they have their quarterback a little bit different, but they could have taken Malik Nabers. If Malik Nabers was so important and transcending and, we need to get a receiver, the Chargers got older receivers, they lost Mike Williams, whatever it may be, they could have taken Malik Nabers, but no, they said, we're taking Joe Alt. And we won't know until 5, maybe 3, 5, 8 years, whatever it may be down the road as we look back at this. But I just believe more in what the Chargers did versus what the Giants did.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing, BT, by the way, when they did it with Odell Beckham Jr., where they could have had Zach Martin, they could have had Aaron Donald. They did the same
Well, there's a reason
thing.
why the Giants have stunk. I mean, and same for the Jets for the most part, because they've just, you miss on things like that, it's just it doesn't go away. Remember when the Bengals drafted Jamar Chase and the thought was they were going to take Penei Sewell,
right,
who went to Detroit, who's terrific.
Right. And look at how he's helped them out.
For Detroit. But look at how Jamar Chase has helped out Joe Burrow.
Oh, well, but they have a quarterback.
But so did the Chargers.
I get it. Yeah.
So, listen, I think the only thing to me that is complex about the direction of the Shane Dable era is that it's year 3, and to your point, they don't have their quarterback yet. But I'm still of the mindset, if you see a player, and you got to be right, you better be right with this assertion of these assessments. If you see somebody that you think is going to be a top 3, top 4 player at that position, let's face it, you can't score, you can't win. We could talk about pass rush and left tackle and this and punting and kicking and special teams and coaching. Do you have a guy who's a beast who's just going to slice up an opposing defense? When was the last time the Giants had that? Right. Outside of Odell Beckham.
But
that's it.
But that's great. But to me, that doesn't win football games.
Well, it does. Now, it doesn't win you Super Bowls unless you have the other requisite pieces.
What are we trying to do here? Like, look at the top receivers in the game, or you look at the top teams in the game. A lot of times, the better teams don't even have the top receiver, and that's been going on for years. And I know the game's evolved, and it's different. It's an offensive game, but still, we talk about Justin Jefferson, and oh my God, Justin Jefferson, what a stud. Yeah, he is a stud. That's great. What if the Vikings won?
Yeah, but that's one example. I mean, there's
let's see
what the Bills are this year without Stephon Diggs. The Bills won a lot of games because of Stephon Diggs.
They won games before Stephon Diggs.
No, not as many.
Yeah,
not as many.
Won games without Stephon Diggs.
That's not true.
By the way,
look what Tua has with the receiver. You think Tua,
who was the
without
Giants,
receivers, is getting that contract?
Who was the Giants' main weapon when they beat the Vikings in Minnesota in a playoff?
It was Daniel Jones.
Yeah,
running the ball.
Okay. So how'd they beat the big bad Justin Jefferson?
No, they
Minnesota
beat the
Vikings?
awful, pathetic Vikings defense. Is what they beat.
Right, so the wide receiver doesn't mean anything then.
That's not true.
Yeah. What about Devontae Adams? How's he done with the Raiders?
I mean,
How have the Chiefs done since they let Hill go?
Well, I mean, listen, Sal, we could cherry pick all
it's
day.
A cherry pick.
No, it is, though.
The biggest examples.
How'd Jerry Rice do? I mean, we could cherry pick all day.
Well, but he also had a full team
What did Michael Irvin do for Troy Aikman? I mean, listen, I don't think there's a perfect way to build a team, but I think there's a smart way, okay? And I think here's where I'll cut the nut with you.
You trust Jim Harbaugh more?
Well, Jim Harbaugh's been at this longer, so he's earned more trust. Sure.
And he took Joe Alt.
Because he's got a quarterback.
I know that, but why wouldn't he then take the wide receiver like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase? If he had the quarterback and he wanted to, oh my God, can't miss best player in the draft in Malik Nabers, why didn't he take him?
Because even me as a non-football person, if I've got the quarterback and then I've got the choice of the receiver or the guy to keep my quarterback walking, I'm taking the guy who's going to have his back.
Right, but that's
everybody's doing that.
Building inside out as opposed to, oh my God.
But the Giants have a great left tackle.
Yeah.
See, that's why, Sal, think about this. When we started the conversation.
But their offensive line has been awful.
But I like what they did this offseason.
Yeah, okay, well, I mean, we got to see it play out.
I understand that. They brought in 2 really good players.
A lot of people like the Evan Neal pick, too. How's that worked out?
He's horrible. Yeah. Well, they liked it on draft day. Nobody liked it once they saw him on film.
Right.
The 2 guys that they brought in, Runyon and the I'm forgetting the other guy's name.
Upgrade on the
their film is good. Yeah, a little bit more. And thank you. And Andrew Thomas is a stud. Like, if we were sitting here, let me put it this way. I'm going to cut it this way, the difference. Now, we fundamentally disagree to an extent. If the Giants... If we're going into the first full week of camp now, padded up, hitting each other, and the Giants have no left tackle, and they've got no pass rush, I would sit here and say they have 0 chance to win. Now, I don't think the Giants are going to be very good this year in terms of a gaudy win total, because I don't think their offense will quite be up to snuff yet.
And why not?
Well, there's a few reasons. Number 1, you lost Saquon. Number 2, Daniel Jones is not it.
Saquon was minimal impact. And I love Saquon, but he was always hurt. And even when he was there,
he was their best player, though, Sal.
But why was he then negated? Because the offensive line stunk. So without the offensive line, it doesn't matter who you have. If you have Daniel Jones throwing the football and he's missing Malik Nabers down the field, or he doesn't have time to throw the football, and he's tucking it and running with it, or whatever he's doing, throwing to the other team, fumbling, whatever it may be, then Nabers gets negated.
Well, we disagree. Listen, I don't think it's perfect. I don't think that this blueprint's perfect, but I also don't think that there's one blueprint to build. I mean, so 2 years ago, the Niners are sitting here. Do you think that they thought that their quarterback would be their quarterback for the next 7, 8, 9, 10 years?
Which he
very well, exactly.
And they traded for Trey Lance.
He was the last pick of the NFL draft, Mr. Relevant here. So, and there's always other ways to find quarterbacks. Meaning, once you move on from Daniel Jones, and they will, guess what? Whomever you bring in, whatever young player, whether it's the 5th pick or the 12th pick, you got a beast ready to get you in the end zone of Malik Nabers, who's got a couple of years under his belt. I'm okay with what the Giants are doing.
BT and Sal on the Fan. Our friends at Town Fair Tire remind you that at Town Fair Tire, you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. Dwight is in Brooklyn. What's up, Dwight?
Yeah, how you doing, Sal and BT? I've been liking you guys for a long time. I never spoke to you, BT, but I've listened to you since you was with Stephen A.
Oh, nice.
And I definitely agree with you with the Malik Nabers thing. I believe, though, that with a great wide receiver, you can make an average quarterback good. I'm sorry. I definitely didn't want the Giants to pick that quarterback that New England. I think he's not going to be good at all. I think he's just going to be like the quarterback that from Alabama that New England took. I like the way that they did. Like you said, I think that because San Diego took Joe Alt because they had a great quarterback, and it was more important to keep him clean than to get another wide receiver. A great quarterback can turn an average wide receiver good, and they can just pick a good average wide receiver, anybody. I've been watching the NFL since I was 7. I'm a Dolphin fan, and I go back way since Warfield and Greasy. And I like the way the Dolphins, I love us, but I'm not really a great Tua fan, but because we got Tyreek Hill and Waddle and we got Odell Beckham, I think they're going to make Tua real good this year. I just think we just need the offensive line to stay healthy.
See, I also disagree with that, Dwight. We appreciate you taking the time to call. We appreciate the support listening to the show. I don't think that a great receiver will make a quarterback better. Could he make things easier? Could he help out? Sure, I don't think he's going to hurt him, but I think you are what you are as a quarterback. You're not. Daniel Jones is not all of a sudden going to turn into John Elway or Joe Montana because he's got Malik Nabers now. Now, Tom Brady could make less than receivers better. Good quarterbacks or great quarterbacks can make decent receivers better. I believe that. Rodgers, I think, could enhance a receiver's production. Patrick Mahomes.
Well, look at Lazard with Rodgers without him.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that, too.
But I don't believe good receivers or great receivers even can make bad calls. Like, is there a receiver alive that can make Zach Wilson better?
Listen, I think I'm with you on that.
You know what I mean?
I do, but I do think what really does impact the quarterback is scheme. So I think a great scheme can make an average or slightly above average quarterback really good, like the Niners. You have these exotic run schemes and guys run it open all day. I mean, who can't make those throws? And then you mix in a player like Malik Nabers, and again, I've got to see it come to fruition, though I really think he's going to be a superstar. Now you got something cooking. So do you believe in Dable's scheme? I do. Do you believe in Nabers? I do. So that's 2/3 of the equation.
Where would you rank wide receiver on the list of importance as far as position goes in building an NFL team?
If it's first of all, off the top of my head, it is within the top 5. Okay.
Wow.
I'm gonna give it to you in order. I'm gonna give you ready. I'm gonna actually do this on the fly. Number 1 is quarterback.
Yeah.
Number 2 is left tackle. Number 3 is pass rush. Number 4 is corner, and number 5 would probably be. I mean, you could go. I was going to say like that seam stretching tight end. I'm talking about the modern NFL or receiver, quarterback, left tackle, pass rush, corner, and receiver.
Yeah,
those are my 5.
And receiver would be 5th.
Yeah.
Okay, so even with that.
But they already got a few of those.
Yeah.
So they got a left tackle.
Quarterback.
They got a pass rush.
Quarterback, offensive line, edge. I mean, to me, even linebacker would be up there. Whether it's a leader of a defense.
A linebacker's the 80s.
Shutdown corner, you mentioned. What do you mean linebacker's the 80s?
Come on, linebackers.
Yeah.
No pass rush. I think.
No, I have edge.
No, but I'm saying, linebackers, to me, I think that's kind of romanticizing the game. I'm not saying that they're not important, but
I think it's more important to have if you were to have a leader as a linebacker. Bobby O, look at the difference he made for this Giants team this year.
that was a good signing.
Yeah, okay.
That was a good signing.
So what? I mean, did Darren Waller do more for the Giants or Bobby O?
Well, Darren Waller was hurt. That's a horrible example.
Well, even when he was healthy, when he was
they
here.
got him.
Yeah. Oh, but they bring in a weapon. Oh, Darren Waller's supposed to be a weapon. No, and you would say, well, the modern NFL, you want a tight end that can stretch the field, look at his length, all this different stuff, create the seam. And Bobby O, nobody makes a big deal about, but he changed that Giants defense. Linebackers to me still important. I just don't think wide receivers are that important. I get why people love them. I get why you want to have one. It's nice to have one. It's not a key part of building a team. It to me is a luxury. Ray, and not necessity to have a winning team. Ray is calling from Babylon. What's up, Ray?
Hi, guys. Good morning. Thanks for taking my call. It's August 1st. I'm Ray from Babylon, and I'm going to declare that the Giants will stink in 2024 and 25. You know why?
Why?
Because they're panicking. The entire moves that they've made with Daniel Jones, panicked. They gave up the farm for this guy, and I know they got the out after 2 years, but nevertheless, they panicked. He's not worth what they paid him. And Malik Nabers is another panic move. He's literally putting the cart before the horse. How do you – and the world is upside down when the Giants can take a cue from Joe Douglas, because what did he do? He built up an offensive line the entire offseason, and now the Jets actually have a competitive chance to win 11, 12, 13 games. So the Giants will stink. They have to stink because there was no game plan other than panicking by drafting Malik Nabers because he was the most talented player in that draft.
See, right to me, panic would be – and thanks for the call. Like, the way this played out, now you can say it's the wrong move. You know, Sal wouldn't have drafted a receiver. That's his opinion. I disagree, but it's certainly, a fair conversation.
Well,
a fair point.
You also have to say what you would have done, and that's what I was going to ask Ray there, but we could just imagine, like, would you have traded down? And the Giants went over all these options. Would you have traded up?
Well, here's the thing. I was going to take issue with his usage of the word panic.
Yeah.
Panic to me is when you are not prepared, when somebody in front of you does something that you don't necessarily expect, and you've got no plan B. It was incredibly apparent from jump that the Giants loved Malik Nabers even before they took him. So
I don't think
that's not a panic. That's staying true to your board and having a good plan.
I don't think it was panic, but was it trying too hard to replace a face of the franchise offense?
I don't think
offensively?
so. I don't think so. I know that it's a convenient way to put, all right, you lose Saquon. Who's going to take the juice on offense?
They kept talking about it.
Yeah, well, I get it.
Want playmakers.
But they say, but because you need them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like saying, I need, it's funny, we talk about Clay Holmes and the Yankees, that I need a bullpen. Well, yeah. I mean, there's certain things in sports that you need. In the NBA, they ain't got to rebound a little bit if you want to win. In football, you need playmakers. They have none once Saquon walked out the building. They got none.
And by the way,
now they do.
He credits Joe Douglas there for building it, with the offensive line. Joe Douglas tried to trade up, or at least called the Giants when they were on the clock at number 6. And I don't think Joe Douglas was calling up there to take alignment.
Joe.
Yeah, Joe Douglas. They muted it out. They didn't have what Douglas said. But I would assume.
What do you think he was trying to do?
Get Nabers.
Yeah, I don't think so.
What was he trying to do at 6?
I don't know. I don't know. That confused me too.
It would have to be trading up for Nabers. I
don't know if it would be Nabers.
Who went? What was the behind him? Well, we'll come back and we can look at it. We got to take a break here. We'll come back and then look it over. I assumed. Now they got multiple calls. They got a call from the Colts.
Yep.
But Shane wanted to sit tight, and then they got a call from the Jets, and Shane said, I think we're going to stay put.
Because they love Nabers.
Correct. And I believe that, I would just think, now we can look at the draft again and see how it plays out. I forget exactly the way it was, but remember the Jets were rumored to be in on Bowers.
Yes.
For the right
tight
receiver.
End.
Yeah, or a receiver was a thought at the time. I think it could have been for Malik Nabers as well. So it's not a knock on Nabers. I have no idea how he's going to pan out in the NFL. He may be great, just like Odell Beckham Jr. was when he was with the Giants. But I hated that pick because they didn't build inside out then. That's why I don't love the pick now. I like Shane and Dable. I want to root for the Giants. I just don't believe in the way that they're building a team. BT and Sal on the Fan. More of your calls on the other side. 888-808-1019 on the